Hi everyone. Today's Thursday, the 25th of February. And as it is Throwback Thursday, and as I was going through memory lane, I figured out this little story I would relate to you guys. It made me tear up, but it was tears of joy. And it also reminded me that maybe this is a story I can share, I can talk to you guys about as I'm doing my once a day, minimum once a day live. And it goes like this. In 2017, on the 24th of February, I got a call. It was about, I think about 3:30 in the afternoon. I got a call from a young lady that I had met the week prior at a show. It really wasn't a show. It was, there was an Orlan and Eric Vergal, Eric Vergal, performance. And I was asked by a friend to come and display some of my jewelry, which I ended up selling and having some people wear. I met this young lady in that show the week prior and gave her a card. We talked for a little bit, and then that was the end of that, and I never heard from her. About a week later, on the 24th, about 3:30, she called me and she's like, "Flor, I need you to do me a favor." And I said, "A favor? Sure, what is it?" She says, "Well, we have a show that's coming up tomorrow, and we have a veteran jeweler who's been doing the show forever with us, who's having some issues. She fell ill and just called me and will not be able to show up tomorrow. And we already had all the tables set up and everything ready. Automatically, as soon as she called me, I thought of you. There was something very special about meeting you a week prior. And so automatically you came to mind, and I wanted to extend to you the invitation to come out to the Seminole to expose some of your jewelry." Mind you, I'd never been to a business vendor expo that had jewelers. Not in that caliber. I've never been to one. I've been to many vendor expos in my line of careers, but never one where there were artisans, where there were people with crafts. And so, although I was extremely scared and didn't feel prepared, I said yes, because as I was contemplating to say no, a little voice in the back of my mind was like, no, say yes. So I said yes to her, and I asked her, "What do I need to get prepared?" She said, "Well, you just need to bring anything that says the name of the business and your pieces so that you can display it. We're gonna have a table for you. And you'll just be able to put your stuff in." So I said okay, knowing I didn't yet have all it took. Mind you, a few months prior, a good friend of mine, Marcus, had made me the logo, the exact logo I wanted. He executed it to the T. That's what I wanted, that's what I needed, and he executed it. But I had not done much with it at all, because in my head, Exotique was still a hobby. People were telling me and pushing me, "Why don't you make it a business? You should sell. You should do this. You should do that." And I was slowly thinking about it, but it wasn't yet a business in my head, so it wasn't set up as a business. And so when she said the next day, I said, okay. I hung up the phone. I was on my way to pick the kids up from school. I went and did that, ran home, got the logo, and tried to print a sheet that had the information. My printer wasn't working, so I ran to Home Depot. And to Staples and Office Depot, one of them, and printed out a sheet. It was an 8x11 sheet that just had the logo that said Exotique. I had previously ordered some prefabricated cards from Vistaprint because too many people were bugging me about giving them a card so they could give to friends, because they wanted to give them something that they can use to order some of my pieces, even though I really wasn't advertising at that time. And so I did that, and then I panicked, trying to pull pieces here and there. At that time, I had pieces that I made, and the bracelets and the rings I hadn't made. So I used to sell wholesale jewelry, so I had some of those that were still there. So I packaged some of those, and then I packaged some of the stuff that I've made. I was shaking, I was scared, to the point that I was afraid to go by myself. My sister, who happened to be in the house that evening, saw that I was panicking, and she said, "Well, no, the lady had told me I cannot come alone. I shouldn't come alone." So I said that to my sister, and she said, well, I'll come with you. And so, not knowing what to expect, not knowing what we were going to do, the next morning, early morning, it was 6 o'clock. We were packing the car because we needed to be there by 7 o'clock. Lo and behold, we got there. We got to the Seminole Hard Rock, and my fears got even bigger than they were the night before. I started freaking out because I was seeing people coming in with their huge banners. I was seeing people coming out with the few other jewelers that were there, had their jewelry nicely set up. They're pulling their little jewelry cart. They have everything all sorted out, and I had bins. I had not even the covered plastic bins for the most part. I had like the open bins, and I probably had 5 or 6, I can't even remember, forms for the jewelry which I had ran and bought at Michael's that night before, and a few metal rack that I could hang the jewelry on. In my head, it was going to be just something I'm going to put the jewelry on the table like I usually do, and it was going to work. Well, intimidated and all, my sister and I walk into the place. They had a cardboard with our name on it, and I was so shocked that I went to the lady and I said, are you sure this is where we're supposed to be? And she's like, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. Turns out, guys, that the table they'd given us was the table right in front of the podium. You cannot miss the table. It was right in front of where all the speakers were sitting, and where the podium was, where they were all going to talk about businesses, where all the cameras and all the stuff were, right in the front. And not only did we get a table, we got 2 tables, one in an L shape. Apparently, the lady that did not make it, that could not make it to the meeting, is a very known veteran jeweler. She's been, when I finally got the whole story, she'd been a jeweler at that point for over 17 years. And that's all she was doing. That was her livelihood. So they had set up, she had the biggest space with 2 tables waiting for her. And she could not come, and the universe that day decided to have me, little me, go and put my stuff there. Mind you, I am freaking out because now people are pulling out their banners. People have their t-shirts with their logo. People had grab bags that they were giving out. They had cards. I had cards too, but they were the stock cards. People were there. People were there with 3, 4 of them to their table, per business to the table. And they were setting up like pros, like they were plop, plop, plop. They were fixing their stuff. And here I am, I'm dumping my bins on the table with my sister so I can figure out how to set this thing up. It took me forever to set up. And I almost cried many times during the setting up. And I looked around, and the table to me looked like crap, if I'm going to be honest. But people were still stopping by. They were like, oh, this is different. What is this? What is this made out of? So people were still stopping by a table. People were like, I'm telling you, people were set up like they were branded to the yang yang, as they said, okay? And I'm sitting there and trying to take it all in. I was excited to be there. I knew at that moment it was a special honor for her to even think of me, to call me. But I was still questioning the universe. Why me? Why am I here? I don't belong here with all these people. Look how nicely they're set up. Look how well they're doing. People had their stuff to take money in. They had their card stuff. I had nothing. Nothing. All I was set up to take was cash, because I did not know any of the other stuff. I wasn't thinking of any of the other stuff. So I'm sitting there with my sister. Halfway, maybe an hour to an hour and a half into this, she's like, oh, I just learned about this Facebook Live thing. Let me start a live. And I'll attach some of the videos to this so y'all can see. So she started videotaping. She started doing Facebook Live and videotaping the whole event. She's telling people, I guess people were writing her. She's telling them, this is what we're doing. And I'm just sitting there like with like a wet poodle, scared out of my mind, and thinking, okay, if I need to keep myself occupied. And I usually do that at shows because otherwise I'll start overthinking things and start changing things around and start panicking. So I pull my tools out and I'm making new stuff as I'm sitting there. And the people were coming, they were looking, barely talking to me, but they were asking questions. My sister knew some of the information, and if they needed anything more, she would ask me, but I'm sitting behind the table. And a young lady who was also a jeweler, a black lady who was also a jeweler, came around and she was like, "Are you new to this?" And I said, "Can't you tell? Of course I am." And she's like, "But your work is beautiful. You just need to display them a little better. You need to do you need to do a little better with displaying and stuff." And I said, "Yes, I know. I really need to." And she's like, "Where did you start? How did you start learning? What classes did you take?" And I started telling her, "Well, I haven't taken any classes. I'm sort of self-taught. I watched some videos and stuff, but I'm like, where are you?" She's like, "I'm down there." And she's way back. When I looked at where she was pointing, she's way towards the back. I kid you not, guys, in a little corner with maybe a third of the space that I had. But her stuff was so pristinely set up that it got me even more scared. She's there. She's telling me, "Oh my God, you have good instincts. I love your color choices. I love the materials you're using." And it was starting to sink. I was starting to absorb that and think, "Oh, look, another jeweler. She thinks my stuff is great." Yeah. Until I saw her stuff, and I almost cried in front of the woman, but I didn't. Thank God. And I'm looking, and I kept telling my sister, I think we made a mistake. I think we're not supposed to be here." And she's like, you know, like this. I said, "We're here. Let's just wait and see how the day goes." People, I kid you not. That time, up until that time, I've done couple little events. And it was mostly in our community, or mostly with people I know or family, or the women's club that I was part of. So it was always around people that I knew. And I hadn't done anything where the big public was there. Prior to that, it was the Orlando's event, and Orlando and Eric Vega's event the week prior, which was with Asian people. 90% of the people that were coming in, I knew them. And so I was always in my comfort zone. And even in my comfort zone, it didn't bother me how I was set up, because I was like, "Hey, this is fine. They can see the jewelry. That's fine." But I didn't quite question whether I needed to be there or not be there. It was a non-issue because I was with people that I knew. And that day, as we're there were speakers coming along, the mayor, the Seminole chief, all these different speakers were talking, and here I am sitting behind my little, behind the little chair they gave me with my tools. I kept trying to be busy because I didn't want to look at anybody in the eyes. So I'm just shying away, and I just kept making stuff to keep my mind away from everything. And my sister from time to time will call me and say, "This woman want to talk to you. You should talk to her. She's the one who made the jewelry." So that's how the day is going until this so I'm sitting. I could see the podium was right in front of me, but I'm not paying attention. Like I told you guys, I'm just keeping myself busy making stuff. And this gentleman walked up, and first thing I saw, because my head was down, was like the belt and everything else. And I looked up, and I was like, "Hi sir, how are you?" And he reached out for me. I shook his hand. I had no idea who he was. And he said, "Well, I had to come closer to your table to see, because something's been catching my attention since I was sitting over there and while I was talking. So I had to come closer." And he comes close, and he's looking at it. He's like, "You know what? This is very different. My wife is really gonna enjoy this." And I said, "Okay." He said, "How much?" I said, "Oh, I'm still like, even now I'm still struggling with prices, but back then even more." I was like, $35. And I said it hesitantly, and he looked at me shocked. And all of a sudden, of course, as he looked shocked to me, my heart started pounding. And so I'm looking like, I'm about to tell him, "Well, today I could give you a discount," something like that. And he looked at me and was like, "No, this is, are you sure? It's $35. And I'm like, as I'm trying to figure out what to answer to him, Guys, no kidding. He pulls out his wallet and gives me $200. And I'm like, I don't have change. He's like, no, it's for you. He's like, it's well worth it. My wife wears a lot of jewelry and a lot of custom jewelry. I've never seen anything like this. This is well worth it. Young lady, keep at what you're doing. There's something special about you and about your work. So keep at it and keep doing what you're doing. But I'm talking to the guy, so I'm obviously lost into what he's saying. He's complimenting me on top of it. So I'm lost. I'm eating up every one of his words, right? And so we're talking and he's smiling, and I'm like now smiling, even though I kind of felt like I wanted to run away. But I'm smiling, looking at him, and he's thinking I'm trying to quickly put the stuff in a bag to give him so he could go. And handed it to him. He goes, turns around, somebody starts talking to him. They take a picture, and then he goes. Soon after he walks away, I kid you not, this shorter, older white lady walks up to me. I'm using the term white because she was. It has nothing to do with race or anything like that. But this older white lady comes up to me and she's like, "You're new at this." I'm like, "Yes, I am." And she's like, "I can see. But you know what? You can't, this is not how you do it." And she started, at the moment, I thought she was just criticizing me. It's just that because I was already on the defensive and already feeling like I don't belong there, initially some of the things she was telling me I was taking as critiques, but she meant, I mean, she really meant well. She started telling me that she was a beater. She's done this, done that. She usually does these shows. This year's her last year. And then she's like, "You know what? Do you know who you were talking to?" And I said, "No." She's like, "That was the mayor. Did you see all the cameras on you and on him?" And I'm like, "No." She said, "Well, now they're just gonna see a black lady talking about her jewelry. They don't know your name. They don't know the name of the business. They don't know anything because you didn't have any of it." Because mind you, where the side of the table we were standing or we were at was not where the card that they had given me with the Exotique name or the one sheet that I had printed with Exotique was, because it was on the other L by where my sister was. And so were the little pre-made cards that I had. So the lady went on. She spent at least a good 10 to 15 minutes. She's like, "Look, you have beautiful work. You look, I can see that you're new at this." And I think she sort of realized that maybe her approach wasn't sinking in. So she changed it and came down to my level in the sense that she was talking a lot more calmer, got closer to me, and started telling me, you need to brand. I'm like, "Okay, I need to brand." I know what that meant, in terms of branding, but I didn't know I wasn't thinking that I needed to brand, brand like we're doing now. So she started telling me, she's like, "I hope you know, this should be the last time that you go anywhere, that your jewelry is not, that your jewelry's name, your business name, no matter what business you get into, that it's not on your sleeve. I hope this is the last time. And I really hope that you need to get a banner. And I really hope you get cards that match that logo, because they weren't matching. My logo and my card, the logo that the friend had just made for me, were not matching the logo, the card, the prefabricated cards from Vistaprint." And so she went on to all that. She said, "You need to order t-shirts. You need to do this. You need to do that." She gave me the name of a place at the swap shop to get my shirts done. And she said, "I hope this is the last time." Then she said something else. She said, "You know what? What are you doing tomorrow?" Tomorrow, because it was on we were there on a Saturday. I think it was a Saturday, either Friday or Saturday. And she said, "Tomorrow there's a bead fair. There's a wholesale jewelry and bead fair for people who create. I think you should go there. I think you should go and look at the different pieces that are there, the different materials that they're selling. Buy yourself some, and here's my number. If you need anything, if you ever need anything or need help learning how to do some things, just call me. There's something beautiful about you. I don't know what it is. I would like to help you." She gave me her number. Her name was Linda. And so the next morning, then later on that day, then she left. We broke out for lunch, I think. And then on my way back, going back to the table, I left my sister and I went to eat something. On my way back, she called me and she started showing me a table. And she's like, you see, this is what you need to do. She's like, granted, it doesn't have to look like mine, but you need to find what suits you and your idea of your business. And you need to work on that. And your jewelry should represent who you are. I can see you're a beautiful person. Your jewelry needs to show that. You should never just put them on the table like that. They need to be dressed up. Even if they're going to go on the table, you need to prop them up a little bit. You need to do better. And I said, okay, I will. And she said, are you going to the fair tomorrow? I'm like, well, I've never been to one, so I'm not sure. And she said, well, I'm going to go. So you have my number. You call me and we can meet up there and I can show you the vendors that I buy from. There's usually some great deals, but they won't tell you about them until you get there or unless you know and you ask for it. So I said, okay, Linda, I will see you tomorrow. I'm walking now to go. The black lady that had come and spoken to me earlier, which is also a jeweler, called me. And I went over and then, I was literally, guys, I'm sitting in front of a table. I'm looking at her talking, but the back of my mind is trying to register everything that's on the table. It was so artistically set up. It was so beautiful that I wanted to buy. I wanted to buy some of the stuff. And she had her little cards. She had everything that was matching. She was picture perfect of everything that the older lady had told me about. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to try doing this. Although I don't want it to be so perfect because I have a problem with pure perfection. So I looked and I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to try some of this, right? And she said, are you going to go to the fair tomorrow? I said, the bead fair? Said, yeah. I'm going to go, so we should hook up there. And I said, well, I guess now I'm going to the fair. I had never been to one before. So I leave them. I go to my sister and she's like, oh, there were people that stopped by. They wanted to buy. I didn't know what to tell. I didn't know the name of the stuff to tell them. They had questions about what materials and all that. I don't know. I didn't know what to tell them. So I told them to come back when you come back. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I just sat there. I had my first customer who, some people may have named her a bad customer, but she was actually a great customer for me. She comes up and she's like, okay, so where do you source your material? Like, everywhere. She's like, well, I don't recognize this bead. What is this? Is this, and she gave me a couple names. Mind you, people, I was using the materials that the materials that I was using was solely determined on how they looked to me. I had no idea what the names were. I had no idea what material it was made out of, where they're from. I knew nothing about the beads. When I'm talking about the beads, the precious stones that I was using, I had no idea about I had no idea of the names of the precious stones that I was using. It was solely done on looks. And so I'm like trying to think out of the box to tell her. But I knew in my heart I wasn't going to lie to her and give her any name that came up to mind because I know that's not right. So finally I broke down and she kept asking and she kept pressing on. And I said, I have no idea. I looked at her and I was very honest. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what the name of this is. And she's like, what? You don't know? How can you be selling something and working with something and you don't know what it is? You don't know the name of it? That's just not right. I really like this piece and I would like to know what it is. The older lady heard her, came over and took the bracelet from her and said, this is such, 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 and such and such. And she said how much. I was about to tell her and she told her $75. The lady pulled her wallet and she was like, this is nice. The lady pulled the wallet, pulled out the $75 and handed it to me. Now, technically, I was going to ask maybe 25, 35, because back then, I did not know the name. I just bought materials everywhere. I did not remember their prices when I was making stuff. I didn't know their names. I was just putting things together because remember, it's still in my head back then, exotique was a hobby. And so she sold the bracelet. The lady bought the bracelet. Paid me. Linda waved to me and went back, said nothing else to me, and was supposed to meet the next morning. I spent the rest of the day there, half in a trance, half super happy, half extremely scared, and all the complex that I have about being an imposter, not really belonging in the jewelry industry, not really able to say that I make jewelry. I couldn't even use the word designer then because there was no connection to me as to that I was designing and making. I let and people just kept coming. People just kept coming and buying and buying and buying. And as I'm looking, I had this bag because of course I wasn't prepared. I had this bag. That's where I was dumping the money. And remember, I wasn't taking credit card or whatever. The people who came and only could pay with credit card had to leave because I didn't have such a thing. But even then, with cash, people were going and using their ATM and coming back and buying stuff. I had a lot of painted jewelry at the time and a few sets and stuff. I tell you guys, every time I looked at the bag, I was in awe of how much money was in there, even though I hadn't counted it yet. But also I was there was that pool. There was that I keep having the reminder, you really don't belong there. You're not ready. You really don't belong here. These people have been doing this all their lives. This is their career. And you're just an imposter. And I would just sit there at times wanting to cry, being happy when people would come and buy. Just really, 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 really out of my comfort zone. So we finished the whole, I'll cut the short